Hello everyone, welcome back to the Crazy Craft Obsession YouTube channel. My name's Cassandra and today I'll be taking through our first layout from the Echo Park free scrapbooking tutorials that we're running here on YouTube. This is the bookish collection and I do have a walkthrough on YouTube that I'll link down below for you. But ultimately we're starting out with a very simple layout that's one of my favorites using 4 pattern papers. Now, if it does go a little bit fast, feel free to pause the video and catch up in your own time. That's the glorious part of YouTube. The pattern papers that we're using from left to right are called Favorite Book Floral, Lined Paper Layout, 4x4 Journaling Cards, and Reading Error. I've pulled 5 photos that I've paired with these pattern papers. Ultimately, I cull it down to 4, and the sizes are 1 4x6, 2 3x3, and 1 4x3, but you can adjust these to the photos that you've got. We're going to start out by trimming our pattern papers. I will be using a 12-inch trimmer for this. This one here is the Tim Holtz trimmer. And we're going to start out with the green paper called Lined Paper Layout. I'm just going to trim my branding strip off and then cut out 2 lots of 1/2-inch strips. Now I do feel like this pattern paper has an orientation to it, and I've chosen to go with the vines on the pattern paper going vertical, similar to how my strips are going to be aligned on the paper. Next up is the 4x4 journaling cards, the back side with all of the words on it, and we're going to trim 2 1-inch strips. Again, this pattern paper has a orientation to it, so I would be careful how you trim it. You want your words to be going across the page so that they're readable. Ultimately, I've chosen to choose the right-hand side of the page because it didn't worry me which words were showing. Then we're going to be doing the reading error pattern paper and we're going to be trimming 2 2-inch strips off that. So you should end up with 2 2-inch strips of the red paper, 2 1-inch strips of the word paper, and 2 1/2-inch strips of the lined pattern paper. Now I did fuss around with this for a while, I've cut it out of the video, but ultimately we're going to be putting our word pattern paper on the right hand side, followed by our red and our green in the middle, and then we're going to mirror that on the left hand side. To stick this down on my white cardstock base, I have chosen to use double-sided tape. You could use liquid glue here, but I have a top tip for you when you're sticking it down. When you're sticking something down like this, you want to align it with 2 sides of your paper. So I've chosen to align it with the bottom and the right hand side. This leaves a little bit of error on the top if you make a mistake. The same with this red piece of paper, I'm aligning it with the bottom and then butting it up against that word piece of paper. And finally, I'm taking my green strip, lining it up with the bottom and trying to put it half and half with those 2 pattern papers where they cross. This means that if there's a little bit of white cardstock at the top of your layout when you're finished, you can just trim it off and no one will be none the wiser. I'm going to do the same for the left hand side of the paper, so we're going to start off with that word pattern paper. We're going to align it with the bottom and the left hand side of our cardstock. Try and smooth it down. Then we're going to take our red pattern paper, align it with the bottom and butt it up against that word pattern paper, and then stick our green strip down the middle. As you can see up the top there, I've got a little tiny bit of white cardstock peeking through those pattern papers from where I've trimmed the branding strips off and they haven't quite aligned, and I will just go ahead and trim that off at the end of my layout. Now this step is totally optional, but I love to come in with a black pen. My favorite Brenner pen is the Micron Pigment pen, and add some definition to each of those pieces of cardstock. I'm just very carefully running my pen down the edge of each cardstock to create a shadow effect and some definition of when each pattern paper starts and finishes. Again, this is a totally optional step and you could use black ink, which I know a lot of people really love. This one here I find is quicker than using the ink, and for me, time is of the essence. Now we're going to have a look at our photos. I decided to map my 4x6 photo in the lined paper layout green pattern paper that we used for the 1/2-inch strip. And I'm just trying to leave a 1/16 border around each side. I did go to the trouble of using my trimmer, which if you've been around my YouTube channel for a while, you know is totally not me, but I tried to get it super duper straight for you guys and failed once again. So I had to use my scissors to cut it down. But you guys might be more skilled with a trimmer than what I am. I'm definitely not the queen of that area. I'm then going to align my 4 photos. So I'm using my 4x6 photo as the main focal point. And then I'm bringing in my accompanying photos that help tell the story to add a little bit more definition to my layout. I have varied the sizes to add some interest, and I'm also varying which ones overlap and which ones go under my photo for even more interest. Then we're going to take the favorite book floral piece of paper and we're going to fussy cut about 1/3 of it. I've done this off camera, so feel free to pause and put your favorite YouTuber or podcast on and do this. But don't worry if you cut more than what you need of that pattern paper, because ultimately in the series that you'll be following, we cut it all out anyway. Now I'm going to adhere my photos just with some double-sided tape. This one here I've tried to get quite square in the middle, pushed up a little bit from the bottom to leave room for our extra photo and our title. I'm then tucking in this 3x3 photo, and then I'm going to overlap this 3x3 photo over the top. This creates some definition, helps tell the story, and it defines that I've chosen that 3x3 photo of my graduation cap and wine glass to be more important than the one up the top. To me, it just felt like it told more of a story. This here should be no surprise, but I'm bringing back my black pen and going around each of my photos just where they overlap the pattern paper to create even more definition. Again, you could do this with an ink pad before sticking down your photos if you wish. I just find the black pen gives a much easier effect and I don't have to worry too much about smudging ink on my photos. Next up, I'll be taking this die set from Altenew. It's called the Fine Alphabet die, but any alphabet die will work. You could also use thickers here instead of this step. I'm also taking the Mega Pad, and in the Mega Pad you get some plain pieces of pattern paper. I'm going to take this 6x6 blush piece and cut my title out of it. For me, for these photos, I've chosen the title Textbook Nerd, but the glory of using thickers and alphabet dies is that you can choose any title that matches your layout whatsoever. The one perk of using alphabet dies to make thickers, or as the person that I learnt this off, who's called Nicole Bingman, I'll link her YouTube channel down below because she gets full credit for this. She likes to call them dickers. But the one perk of being able to do this is that you can match your pattern paper perfectly with the layout that you're designing. You don't have to worry about if you've got enough A's, O's, I's, whatever letter you run short on. You can create it every time. I've gone ahead and cut all of the letters that I need out of that blush piece of pattern paper, and then 2 extra letters of each out of some scrap white cardstock. I'm just using my Stamp Wheel 2.0 now for the sticky mat to stick them down to. This is so helpful in helping them stay all together so that I don't lose any. And I'm going to take them one at a time and add some glue to the back of them. So I'm sticking down a white T to another white T to get some texture and depth, and then I'll stick my blush piece on top. Off camera, I'm going to go ahead and do this for all of these letters, and it creates quite a dimensional, cheap way of creating your own thickers. Again, Nicole Bingman is the one that came up with this, so check out her YouTube channel because she describes it way better than I do. Now that all my dickers are created, I'm going to put them on my layout. I'm making sure they align first in that white space underneath my photo that I've left. Then I'm going to use some liquid glue to put them down. Again, you could use pre-made alphabets for these. You could draw a title. You could make one on a Cricut. You could adjust this whichever way. I just wanted to use the dies to show you how to do this technique, and so that if you don't have thickers or anything in your stash, you can invest in one good die set and it will carry you through the whole tutorial series. I've chosen to do a 2-line layout for mine, and I'm butting both the starting words up against that left-hand photo just to create some repetition. My title is going to be Textbook Nerd because this is a graduation photo of me from graduating from a Bachelor of Chemistry and Biology, so I thought that was quite fitting. I'm then going to take our fussy cut florals and align them up the top and in the lower right hand side of the page. I'm having a look at what florals fit where, and then I start gluing them down after auditioning a few to make sure it works. The idea of using these florals is, because they're fussy cut, some of them may have a trimmed off edge, so they're not going to be complete. Another top tip I've got for you is not to toss them away. You can see here this one has a straight edge. I'm purposely aligning that straight edge with the top of my paper so it looks like it was a full flower and I've purposely trimmed it off. The same with this one here. I'm tucking it underneath my photo so that it looks like it goes to completion underneath my photo, and my photo is just layered over the top. This is a really important tip that I like to stress in scrapbooking so that it saves you money and also gives you more florals to work with. Ultimately, what I'm looking for here is just some layering, but I have slowed this down if you want to copy floral for floral, the ones that I'm layering on top of each other. I'm just trying to vary the different sizes and colours whilst making a cluster up in that left-hand top corner, filling the void between the white pattern paper and the white cardstock and the pattern paper of my layout. You can see here I'm overlapping some over the side of the paper to give it a organic look, and I'll trim those off at the end. Then I'm going to come down to the bottom. Again, I'm using some of those straight florals on the edge of the paper so that I can use them up and not waste them, and I'm using them to tuck underneath my photo as well. I'm then going to use some more complete florals in the middle so that they give a layered effect. If you wanted to add some more definition and dimension in this step, you could prop some of those florals up on foam squares or foam tape. I've chosen to keep them all flat just to keep the layout simple for our first layout that we're doing, but if you're a pro at scrapbooking, feel free to use this. You can see I'm using wet glue to stick them down. Double-sided tape would work as well, although I do find the wet glue gets into the little crevices of the flowers a little bit more to stick them down fully than what I can get my double-sided tape. I am just aligning this big floral. It's going to overlap with another big floral that I end up peeling up right here. And I'm just aligning it so that they're not in the exact same orientation to give a little bit of variation. I also didn't want it to overlap my title, so I had to get the orientation here exactly right. If you've got a smaller title or a different font that you're using that fits a little bit differently, you might be right with leaving it in a certain orientation. It really doesn't matter as long as you've got a nice floral cluster. Then I thought about putting this orange one down here, but ultimately I want my journaling strips to be at the bottom of that title. And you can put your journaling strips there too, or you can put them to the left-hand side of our 4x6 photo where there's room underneath our top floral cluster. Now that all of those are stuck down, I'm going to come in with a tiny word sticker that says "Life is a fairy tale" in that same blush pink and stick it down underneath as a subtitle, and then come in with some enamel dots. I love adding enamel dots for a little bit of definition and texture. It's like the little tiny embellishments and bling that complete a layout for me. Today I will be adding them to the middle of the flowers, so I've added an orange one to that peach flower, an orange to the blue, and then a yellow to the red here down the bottom. Then I will be adding an orange to that yellow, a yellow to the blue, and then 2 small blue ones on each of those orange flowers. That is going to conclude the layout today. I'm going to trim off the excess flowers and that little bit of white strip off camera. And then there's some still shots. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to post your completed layouts to the community group that will be linked down below, and let me know what you like of the video. Thanks for watching. Bye.